Welcome to the Histories of Northamptonshire podcast series, and this episode number 99. Recorded on location, each episode tells the story of one of the many and varied objects which are the focus of the exhibition A History of Northamptonshire in 100 Objects. The exhibition runs at the Northampton Museum and Art Gallery between the 20th of September 2025 and February 2026. Selected by local individuals, heritage groups and the museum's own curators, each object tells a different story from the county's past. And so, to our guest for this episode.
So my name's Lee Spencer. I'm the head of build at Mercedes AMG High Performance Powertrains at Brixworth.
And instantly we are talking about cutting-edge technology in Northamptonshire.
Absolutely, yes. Formula One, right at the very top level of engineering.
Cutting engineering, but not with wheels on this particular occasion. Tell me what the object is that you've created and put into this exhibition.
So it's the CPAP device, which is the continuous positive airway pressure device.
I understand why they call it a CPAP now. The object seemingly has no connection to a high-performance racing team. How did you come to be involved with the production of a CPAP?
So really that takes us right back, probably over 5 years. In the COVID pandemic, we'd shipped everything out to Australia to start our normal Formula One season. But while that was happening, the COVID pandemic was growing around the world to quite serious levels. In China, there were several instances, and it reached a crescendo really in the weekend of the race when it got cancelled, and everybody in Australia was told to go home. The event was cancelled. The COVID pandemic was rising everywhere. And in the background, in the UK, the government and the Cabinet Office were talking to the Formula One teams about what support they may be able to give in terms of making ventilators or any devices that may help in the pandemic.
This is team working on a global scale.
Absolutely, yes, yeah. And particularly, as I say, the project in itself got named very quickly, and it was called Project Pit Lane.
Everybody loves a little bit of alliteration. Project Pit Lane immediately shouts to me, but so different to what ordinarily your organisation would have been working on and working flat out on. Having said that, Formula One was kind of put on the back burner for a period of time. Nobody was going to be racing anytime soon. So presumably you had availability within work for those people who could still work to contribute to engineering needs such as the nation needed via the NHS.
Absolutely. There were a few of us asked to keep coming into the business while we dealt with the fallout really of the government announcement of everybody stay at home. And some of the engineering teams were allowed, quite a restricted number, to work on projects such as ventilators.
Why Formula One? Was it just a form of engineering, or was there something innovative in what you were creating? For instance, is a CPAP device something that didn't exist before the pandemic, or were you modifying something that already was in existence?
The CPAP device did exist beforehand. It had been around since about the 1950s, actually. But it was in few numbers in hospitals. And the challenge was, who and how would you get to the numbers that were going to be needed to support all the hospitals in the UK? I mean, that calculation was made quite early, and it was about 10,000 would be needed to support all the hospitals in the UK.
10,000 units, which were based on 1950s technology, but which you, here in Northamptonshire, were able to bring up to 21st technology standards. How much of a challenge was that?
It was a very fast-moving challenge. So when we had the initial scope from UCL, University College London, for us to get licensed to use this in hospitals, you need to copy something that already exists. That's the quickest way to get certification. So we took the advice of the professor down at UCL and Googled and researched what was available. And we managed quite quickly to get a very old service manual. We managed to find one on eBay in Nuneaton, of all places. And our operations director bought it on eBay, brought it back to the factory. Within 24 hours, we'd CT scanned it and started to pull it apart so that we could see what was involved in the CPAP. And for us to look at it, initially we found there's only 24 components compared to 25,000 in our Formula One power unit, so quite a significant difference. However, when we were given the scope, it was also copy something, but please help us with this small challenge, which I think floated the boat for the engineers. where we needed to make it more oxygen efficient, and our engineers took that challenge of how we could help. Hospitals wouldn't be able to cope with the number of CPAPs if the worst case happened with the oxygen supply. So if you could make it more efficient, you could use more CPAP units on the wards, and that would just be of benefit to the NHS.
People who come to visit the exhibition or may see a picture of the CPAP in somebody's hands might be surprised to see just how small it is. You say there were 24, 25 parts in this particular item. Are there fewer as a result of the innovation you've been able to bring to its design and manufacture?
Actually, we stuck with the 24, but we were able to adapt some of the pieces, and I think we added one or two small additions, which was on people's advice and recommendations, and we're able to test it within hours of making a component.
What was the atmosphere? Can you remember what the atmosphere was like when you got hold of an existing CPAP as the template for what you were going to be working on? Given, as you said, that your power plants that go into the back of a racing car have got 25,000 parts, and you're just talking about an object with 24 parts. Was this going to be something that we could knock off during a lunch break? Or was this a serious challenge in terms of what was required of you?
I think it was twofold, and I think the first one, when we looked at it and pulled it apart, is that it? And it really did feel like that. However, the challenge was, is that it? But hang on, we normally make one or two pieces, probably batches of 5 are big for us. 10,000, that's such a huge number. And that was our challenge of how to get it made quickly, built, tested and delivered out to the hospitals.
So how did you overcome that?
We basically, once we'd got the components apart, we ran a small-scale trial. So we got an order for 100 parts from the Cabinet Office through the Department of Health and Social Care. We made that order of 100. We originally estimated how long they'd take to put together. We confirmed those times, and we thought, right, now to make 10,000 of those, bearing in mind it was a time of social distancing, so we couldn't just have production lines and flow lines where people were handing over bits to each other. We'd got them working 2 metres apart. We'd relayed out the floor. We worked out to do that with shift handovers. We're going to be needing to finish one of these every 50 seconds. If it was a minute, we'd just about cope and survive. So we laid out our floor. We worked out how many people we'd need to be manufacturing the parts, cleaning the parts, and then assembling the parts. And we literally set about, right, that's it. We then made a few phone calls to people. And I would say, we'd got people coming in from Corby, Daventry, all over Northampton were able to come in.
Given that the COVID pandemic touched so many families around the globe, and Northamptonshire was no different, was there a recognition that what you were actually creating could be life-saving as opposed to making something that would make a driver go quickly round and round in circles? Because that's a very different thing.
Absolutely, and it is very different. But I have to say, there was an amazing buzz about the whole facility. We were down from where normally 1,000 people were on site or more, down to about 200 on site across 3 shifts, 24 hours. The place, the lights were on. But there was a real buzz about, we're achieving something here, we're making something great, and if we can get it out to Northants General Hospital, that'd be a great tick in the box to say we've supplied our local hospital. And I remember when that was achieved and, we got the phone call to say we've received them at Northants General. It was everybody was so chuffed. It was, it was an amazing experience.
As positive as winning a Grand Prix?
At the time, it really did feel like that, yes. And we'd got people who were, you must come in and only work this shift. But the amount of people that were, I'm all right to carry on if I can. And it's like, no, you can't, because we've got people to come in and replace you.
So at the risk of extending the Formula One connection a little bit too far, from what you're saying, Lee, there was a real sense of teamwork within the company, because this was a piece of engineering that the company was turning out for the government and for the NHS, but also teamwork in terms of pulling people off things they would ordinarily do to go and support the greater good of the greater, wider community, and in this case, the widest possible community.
Yeah, definitely. The teamwork was not just within Brixworth, it was in the supply chain, so we'd converted machines in-house to make different products rather than pistons and turbochargers. They were making the main body for the CPAP. We'd got suppliers in Salsey Forest and places like that just delivering to us to make the product.
Mercedes engines are made at a factory which is about as high-tech as you could possibly get. Listen to Formula One, they'll always talk about the people at Brixworth as opposed to the people at Brackley, which is where the Mercedes Formula One team is based. You weren't the only Formula One team that were involved in this. There were others as well. Was there a sense of there being a kind of race to time? Was there a standard or a reputation to be written on the back of this? Or was this just everybody mucking in together?
I think really it was just everybody mucking in together. You know, you turned on the news, every minute of the news was just bad news. And actually to be involved in something that was going to be good news and help, that was the amazing thing. And the speed we were going at was just our own pace, if you know what I mean. We really wanted to deliver these things quickly, and we had to deliver quickly.
What has happened to the CPAP Project Pit Lane? What has happened to the CPAPs that are out there at the moment? And what about future demand? Are you still involved in this, or have you now handed off to another manufacturer who has perhaps better manufacturing capability, given that you're in the business of building Formula One engines?
As far as I know, we wrapped up the 10,000, then we made some top-up components as well to go in the pool of hardware. Because bear in mind, the CPAP was the main unit, but there were masks involved in supplying it to the hospitals. And we supplied them all to UCLH, and then they did the distribution. And at that point, the project has gradually wound down. You know, but we know there have been 3,000 applications for the device. There's been 1,800 approvals worldwide, and that's in 105 countries from our open source information that we provided from Northampton.
So from your perspective as an engineer and a quality engineer and overseeing that process, do you have an emotional reaction to the CPAP and seeing what the CPAP was able to do for humanity in a time when humanity desperately needed help?
Yeah, for sure. And I think all 200 or more people at the organisation, and some people have moved on now, everybody will feel the same about it. It was a very short period of time. You know, it was less than 1 month that we had first contact, and we delivered 10,000 in less than 30 days, which was a phenomenal success. Anybody that was involved in that has an enormous amount of pride, and you've got a real intimate feel when you've got a CPAP in your hand of, I know what that is, I know what that does.
I can see the pride on your face. I can see the pride in your hand gestures as well. This is something that you were very much invested in. Given that we were talking about lives rather than winning races, it's a proud boast that Northamptonshire is the home of high-tech engineering, such as it applies to Formula One. There are umpteen teams in the county. Why should the CPAP be one of the 100 items that tells the story of Northamptonshire? What about it is defining of Northamptonshire?
I think it was the ability for us to take a product, improve it, and it was a 70% improvement on oxygen usage, and delivered that very, very quickly. And that was, I say, Northampton suppliers, Northamptonshire people involved in doing that. And then if I think about the wider involvement in that, you know, we very quickly, at the end of the 30 days, we were talking to people in Stuttgart, in Malaysia, in Tuscaloosa in the USA, about delivering them the instructions, the work instructions, the standard operating procedures to make these parts. Northamptonshire was the absolute epicentre of the CPAP device, something that had been around before but was now new and improved, and it was available worldwide.
It's a fascinating response to a global call for assistance. You answered the call. Your technology, albeit from the 1950s, but given a 21st century brushing up and reworking, is now saving lives, providing lives, and a life-saving opportunity for people beyond the pandemic. So the CPAP has a life beyond that. Thank you for what you did on behalf of the nation. And also, thank you for what you continue to do, because Formula One has other areas in which technological spin-offs benefit the community. And thank you for taking the time to come and tell us about it today. All the best for the future of Formula One this season and beyond as well. And let's hope we don't have a pandemic again in the near future. Thanks very much, Lee.
Thank you very much, John. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this Histories of Northamptonshire podcast. If you would like to find out more about the objects or listen to other episodes in the series, go to www.northamptonmuseums.com. Alternatively, you can visit the Northampton Museum and Art Gallery, where you can see the A History of Northamptonshire in 100 Objects exhibition for yourself. The Histories of Northamptonshire project is funded by Arts Council England as part of the National Portfolio Programme.